Hi everybody, welcome back to Tea and Lit. This is our last video of the day. If you guys have been watching our videos for the week, I don't know how long this is taking, like a weekish, then you will have recognized of this outfit, this hair, this everything. And in the last Shakespeare video that I filmed, I said that I was out of tea and water, which I am, and that's terribly unfortunate, and I said I'm gonna be done, but I'm not done. We're gonna go one more. I also lost the light, so that's also why I thought I was gonna be done, but just set up our little light here. You can probably see the ring in my glasses. Should I take them off? So stimulating. Okay. Our last video of the day will be a review of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I was going to say the wonderful book of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, but it is a great book. So go ahead and grab yourselves a cuppa and a copy, and let's get into it. I don't have a cuppa because it's empty. Is there anything more sad than an empty cup of tea? A bad book. That's more sad because somebody put a lot of time and effort into writing a book. Thankfully, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by somebody. I don't write the author down. Oh, L. Frank Baum is great. I feel genuinely cheated out of my childhood for having never read this book because it was basically the most precious story written in the most precious way ever. I was watching, let's back it up a little bit. I was watching a YouTube video some time ago about this woman saying like, these are the things you should get at garage sales whenever you get the chance. And one of the things she said was you should get children's books written from a long time ago because it's amazing to see how much, not just the content, like what the storyline is for old books, the content, and how challenging, like twaddle basically is what modern books are. I don't mean to be dreadful. What Charlotte Mason would call twaddle is what a lot of modern children's books are like, and they're just not stimulating to the children. They're not pushing them their boundaries at all. From a literary standpoint, from a moral standpoint, most of them, not all, but most children's books are just not that great, and The Wizard of Oz is not like that. Partially because it was written a long time ago. So it was written, the published date was May 17th, 1900. That is old. But it's such a beautiful story, such a beautiful book. I have seen the movie a few times, and it was kind of fun to see the differences between what I remember of the movie and the book. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, and if I can find it, I may do like a react video, especially comparing the book to the movie, if I can find it at the library or online or something. I'm not gonna like purchase The Wizard of Oz, but it was super cute. So let's get into our review and summary of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. First thing I want to say is what was our rating system? Remember, the first thing is the quality of writing. I gave it a 5. Again, it was written so incredibly beautifully. Absolutely beautiful. The ease of reading, a 5. It is a children's book, so I mean, if I put myself into a second grader's brain, then maybe it was a little challenging, but from my age as an adult, it's fine. The pace of the story was a 5. There was so much happening. There was something going on every moment, and there was no like space. Like there was clearly a pattern being done of like in the second half of the book that there was a clear pattern, but it wasn't explained 4 different times, like for each of the different characters. It wasn't explained 4 times. It was just pushed through. It was really, really great. Plot development, I gave a 5. It was beautiful. Just, the story is so beautiful. Then the characters, I gave a 4. I don't know why I gave the characters a 4. I really liked the characters. I thought it was super fun. I didn't even introduce the characters. I should start with that. The story of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, in case you've never seen, watched, read, whatever, is the story of a little girl living in Kansas and her little dog Toto. And Dorothy is the little girl's name. Her house in Kansas is picked up by a cyclone, they call it. We call them tornadoes in Illinois. I guess in Kansas they're called cyclones. Picks up her house and drops it into this magical world called Oz. And she has to find the wizard at the center of that land to send her back home. That is the purpose of the story. Along the way, she meets 4 friends. First is a scarecrow with no brains. Second is a tin woodman with no heart. Third did I say 4 friends? She meets 3 friends. She's the 4th friend. Silly me. And third is a lion without courage. So those are our characters, and they're beautiful characters, and the story of these characters is just beautiful. Next up is atmosphere. The description of this world is just phenomenal from jump. Like, from page 1, explaining how gray Kansas is beautiful. And as somebody from the Midwest, I totally appreciated it. Just like the lack of terrain, it's very gray. The soil is not very good because there's been too much tillage and, no rain. It's just, the description of Kansas felt very close to home to me. The enjoyability of the book, I gave it a 5 because, again, this is just the most darling children's book I've read in a very, very long time. The insightfulness, I gave a 5. There was a very beautiful story, moral story to go along with this book that was just lovely. The logic, I gave a 4. It is hard to make this sort of thing work. I'm not gonna lie, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful story. Everything was great. But, like, when you do something fantasy for children, like, of course there's gonna be small holes that are just there, which is fine. And then the book cover, this is actually the real book cover. I actually don't want to show you. I'm not going to show you the dust jacket. I gave it 2. I didn't really like it, but I prefer it without the dust jacket. This little gold spine. Super gorgeous. So that is that. My favorite quote was at the end of the book, and the wizard says to the Tin Woodman who wants his heart back, who wants a heart, not his heart back, but a heart. The wizard says to him, the heart makes most people unhappy. And I think that's an important lesson to learn, because it does. Our hearts do hurt us sometimes. So what are the themes of this story? I would say there's the theme of home and what home is to us. Obviously, she's taken away. Her home goes with her. The house structure goes with her. And so I think the argument is that home is the people that you consider your family. And so she wants to get back to her aunt and uncle. Dorothy is the she. Dorothy wants to get back to her aunt and uncle, even though the house itself is there in Oz with her. So for her to say, I want to go home, it's not that she wants to go home to her cabin, it's that she wants to go home to her family in Kansas. I would say there's another theme of being aware of yourself and not allowing your insecurities or the things that you believe you lack prevent you from being who you are. So the Scarecrow doesn't have brains, except we see repeatedly throughout this story, he's the one coming up with ideas to solve the problems that they face. We see that the Tin Man has no heart, except throughout the story we see he doesn't want to hurt anything. He doesn't want to hurt any animals. He doesn't want to squish a bug because he feels he's got no heart, and so he wants to make sure that he takes extra care of every living being, which of course is a sign that one has a heart. And then for the lion and his lack of courage, there are things that are kind of scary that he steps in front of that says, okay, friends, get behind me, I'll take care of this. He continues to confront things even though he says he's got no courage. So I would say that one of the major themes is not letting what you perceive as lacking within you dictate your choices in life, but know that you probably do possess those qualities. I think this is super important. I should be really serious about this because I feel like I say this to myself all the time, and I definitely say it to my brother all the time. You have those qualities that you think you don't have. You are a great artist. You are a great writer. Just do it. Okay? Just do it. And symbols. There's a lot of nature symbols and a lot of animal symbols in this story. There's lots of trees, and they move and they block you when they're strong. And there's lots of fun, helpful animals. So... and I think another one is probably for a theme is like the fragility of life. And the biggest one is probably our perception of power. I think that's a good one. Maybe second biggest. Because Oz turns out not to be what they expect him to be. So, summary of the book. Our story starts out with a beautiful description of the great state of Kansas. I've never actually been to Kansas. I don't want to say it's a description of the great state of Kansas, but it's a description of the Midwest. I am from the Midwest, I can say that. Dorothy is in Kansas, and she's talking about what it's like to be there. She's an orphan, so she lives with her aunt and uncle, and then a cyclone comes, and her dear aunt, jumps into the cyclone cellar. We call it a tornado shelter. jumps in without Dorothy, to which I just think is like the most terrible quality in a caretaker ever. You leave the small child to be picked up by the tornado, and you get yourself into the storm shelter, whatever. So the house gets picked up and dropped in Oz in the east. It falls on the witch's house, and Dorothy is just so mature, so adult, so lovely, and I love reading stories where the children are so well behaved. And so she says the cyclone is taking her up in her house, and she says she just decides to sit down and wait to see what comes. So beautiful. And when she wakes up the next morning and she's in the land of Oz, she puts on her outfit and she washes her face and she eats her food. She packs herself a little basket. Like, I just love these moments where children are so mature, you know? That's a sign of like good parenting, good caretaking. As somebody who works with children all the time, I can say I can tell the parents who are really actively involved in their kids' lives and make those really difficult consistency decisions, those really difficult days of being consistent on what you're wanting your child to do, so that when the child is older, they can do things on their own. Like, you know, the kid knows that it's time to get ready for school at 8 a.m. That kid is going to just do it. Whether there's somebody there to tell him to or not, he's just going to do it. And that's awesome. So yes, the house lands on the Wicked Witch of the East. The Munchkins come to her. They're so pleased that she's killed the Wicked Witch of the East, because that now means that they are no longer slaves to her, which is great. In a fun twist of events, the Wicked Witch of the East, silver shoes. They're not red. Guys, they're not red. So crazy. So she gets given the shoes by the Good Witch of the North. She is a friend of the Munchkins, so Dorothy gets to keep these silver shoes, and she is told that she needs to go find the Great Wizard of Oz to see if he can help her get back to Kansas, and she has to follow the yellow brick road to get there. Along her journey, she comes across a cornfield. By the way, the description of these farms is making me super inferior based on what my plants are looking like, because it's not good. She meets a scarecrow, and he's stuck on a pole, obviously, and he says that he's got no brains and he feels stupid, and that's not good. He doesn't want to be a fool. He wants to have brains. And so he says, I want to go to Oz with you. And so she says, come along, my friend Scarecrow. And then they keep moving along, and they go to the woods, through the woods on the yellow brick road, and they come across a little cottage. And so they spend the night in the cottage, and when they leave, they see a tin woodman with an axe in his hand, and he's stuck there. And they pick him up on their journey, and he tells them the most just heartbreaking story, but also so lovely, of how he lost his heart. So he used to be a man of flesh, but he was a wood chopper, and there was this woman there, and she said, and he loved her, but she was a caretaker for somebody who wasn't very nice, and said that she couldn't marry, the young woman could not marry the man who was of flesh, and he has to build a bigger house for her. The cottage is too small, before he can marry her. So he chops wood for a living, so he's going to chop a bunch of wood to fulfill his task. And one day he cuts off his leg, but there's a good tinsmith in the area, and so he makes him a tin leg. But then another time he chops off another leg, and so then he chops off both arms, and then he chops off his head, and then he chops off his body. But when he chopped his body in half, the tinsmith built him a body, but that body didn't have a heart, so he felt like he couldn't love that woman now because he had no heart, which is just so sad. So the Wonderful Wizard of Oz is going to give him a heart, or so they want. And then they keep on walking, this little crew of 3, and they come across a big scary lion. But the lion isn't that scary because he's actually really afraid of things. And so he wants the Wonderful Wizard of Oz to give him courage, because he feels like, I'm a lion, I'm supposed to be the king of the woods, and I'm afraid of everything. So what I have to do is get me a little bit of courage. And they go through on this beautiful journey to the wizard, and then the wizard sends them away. So tough. The wizard says, listen, I will do these things for you, but you have to do something for me. And that thing that you have to do for me is you have to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. So, our companions go on a journey to the west to kill the Wicked Witch, and that is where there's the flying monkeys, which are horrifying in the movie. The monkeys tear apart the scarecrow, which is dreadful, and then they throw the Tin Man onto a bunch of rocks, so he's all dented and screwed up. Not nice. The lion is kept in captivity because the Wicked Witch wants to ride him like a horse. Not nice. And Dorothy is a slave and has to do all of the cooking and cleaning in the castle for the Wicked Witch, which is not nice. But the Wicked Witch knows that Dorothy has the magical shoes of the Wicked Witch of the East, and she wants that. And so what she does is she sets up an invisible iron pole that Dorothy trips over, and Dorothy loses a shoe. Well, in her fury, Dorothy throws... I'm about to spoil this. We'll stop. I'll stop. It's a lovely story, and by the end of it, everybody gets what they want, and most importantly, they each lead a people, and they feel very proud of themselves for the journey they've accomplished, for the friendships they've made, and the people that they can now serve. They all, at the end, serve as kings of the area, leaders of the area, and they feel really good about that. And most importantly, and that's all wonderful. So I guess that's all I want to say. It's a lovely story, and I think every child should read it, and I think adults should read it when you're feeling like kind of sad and nostalgic, because it was just so darn cute. It was just so darn cute. I'm really grateful that I read this book because it was so adorable, and I would recommend it. Definitely if you are somebody with children, small children, the smaller the better. You could read this to a 3-year-old, but I would say that a 2nd grader or 3rd grader could read it themselves. Definitely a 4th grader could read it themselves. I think this is a great early chapter book. When your kid is transitioning into chapter books, this is a good book to give them to read. And just absolutely precious. Gorgeous story. Wonderful moral lesson. Literarily stimulating. Is literarily a word? I don't know. It is now. And would recommend. I gave it 5 stars. Did I say that? I gave it 5 hearts. We don't do stars because I can't draw stars in my notebook, but I can draw hearts. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the comments below, I would love to know if you have read this book and at what age you read it. Give this video a like or a dislike. I do appreciate the votes. And in the description box below, the first, I won't have notes for this video. In the description box below, there are some cool t-shirts, mugs, pillows you can get with fun movie and with fun book quotes on them. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please subscribe and ding the bell for more book reviews, not just on children's books, and more things that are coming up soon. Have a good one. Bye.